Anyway, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin hold summit in Alaska. Sky
Ukraine
News is
being
doing
able
full
to
coverage.
defend its territory.
They got
even if it's been
Anchorage,
losing
Alaska.
somewhat.
They got the cameras on. Vladipoo is flying in from Russia. That's a 9-hour flight. Donald Trump is flying in from DC. That's a 7-hour flight, I believe. That's a big ass plane right there. I don't know if this is not the Qatar plane, right? That one is still being worked on, I suspect. But ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot. Okay, I'm just down the street, man. I got an AP notification that Trump has landed in Alaska. Does AP suck? What do you mean? Trump is no longer doing a one-on-one with Putin. Rubio and Witkoff will be in on the meetings as well as Putin's other advisors. My guess is Trump was told he should have some smarter people in the room. That's crazy. You won't let two lovers see one another in private? That's actually fucked up. That's actually fucked up. Bro, they literally... Okay. I am now more invested in the Blue Anon narrative that they are gay lovers than ever before, because clearly people in the know also recognize this reality. They are straight up stopping two lovers from seeing one another in private. That is crazy. Okay? That's crazy. That's messed up. That's messed up. You gotta let let the lovers do their thing, I think. And that's messed up that they won't do that. So, free pump, stopping Trump from sucking Pootie's toes. They're cock blocking our big, beautiful boys. Straight up. Yeah, he got Benny Johnson. Dude, this is pretty funny though. Like I love that. I love that they normally, it's going to potentially last 7 hours until we get a press conference. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman, says a summit with Trump could last about 6 or 7 hours. 6, 7. Oh God, I'm so stupid. Fucking, I deserve punishment. Hope Trump is excited to learn a lot about Yurik and Bogdan Khmelnytsky. Okay, 6, 7, skobliat. Okay, gulag for you. Okay, so I will say this is pretty funny that even Trump's own people who normally let him do his thing were like, bro, you are not, we can't let you do this one. Like, it is, even Trump's own people were like, yeah, we have to be in this, man. We can't let you give up Alaska, because that was being floated. Okay. That was being floated around. I read a report that Trump was like, yeah, we'll let them extract from Alaska. The art of the deal, baby. Can't have peace talks without Zelensky involved. No, that's not the concern. What do you mean? It's not happening already. It's not like Zelensky's involved in these conversations. That's not the concern. The concern is you need like actual adults in the room. Otherwise, Vladimir Putin is going to get like 8 states out of this convo. They're going to come out of this meeting and Donald Trump is like, yeah, I gave him North Dakota. Who needs it? We got South Dakota. We got 2 Dakotas. I said, Putin, you can have one of them. He said, there's a lot of Russian speakers in North Dakota. I gave it to him. I said, whatever. Trump tells Fox he's willing to walk away from the table. Alaska is yours. And now I said, Putin, I'll throw in Idaho for you. He said, I don't want Idaho. Nobody wants Idaho. I wanted to give him Idaho as well, but he said no. This is the reason why even Witkoff and Marco Rubio are like, we have to be in the room, sir, please. You will fuck this bag up real bad. Because like this kind of dynamic, Trump has the same dynamic with Vladimir Putin as he does with like Benjamin Netanyahu. But of course, given the way that American foreign policy works with Israel, you can have Trump eat Benjamin Netanyahu's toe jam, right? Like, that's fine. That's normal American foreign policy. But you can't have him do that to Russia because Russia is a foreign adversary. So that's the reason why they were like, hey, man, we have to be in this one. A White House official confirms Trump's one-on-one with Putin is no longer happening. Instead, it'll be a 3-on-3 with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Secretary of State Marco Rubio joining Trump. Not clear who will be joining Putin from the Russian side. For the expanded bilateral meeting and working lunch, Trump will be joined by Secretary Marco Rubio, Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary Scott Bessent, Scott Lutnick, Special Envoy Witkoff, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, per a White House official. Don't worry, we still have the one with the faces, the big, beautiful faces. I just think they legitimately were like, we cannot let you, we don't trust you. We don't trust you in a one-on-one situation with Vladimir Putin, Mr. President, sir. We're gonna have to deal with this ourselves. Okay. Here's Trump with what's his face? Brett Baer, I think. Is that him? One of these like potato guys who looks like he played football in high school and peaked. He's on Air Force One, Trump Force One. I think it's going to work out really well, says Donald Trump. Let's take a look.
Okay, in the office with President Trump on Air Force One, heading in. What's your initial feeling? How are you feeling about what you're going to get out of this?
I think we're going to do very well. Our country is doing.
Dude, Fox News is going red, white, and blue on the subtitles too. Just really
Doing very well. We're setting records economically like we never have before, including the stock markets are all at a record high. We're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars with tariffs. We're going for a meeting with President Putin in Alaska, and I think it's going to work out very well. And if it doesn't, I'm going to head back home real fast.
I mean, if it doesn't, you walk.
I would walk there.
Okay, in the office with President Trump on Air Force One,
right.
Heading in. What's your initial feeling? How are you feeling about what you're going to get out of this?
Isn't this a little bit, it feels like AI. Yes, Trump sounds like he's AI. Isn't this also kind of an L? If you just like invite Vladimir Putin, war criminal, to the United States of America, which is fine, you have to do that, right? You have to have a ceasefire. You have to have a conversation with Vladimir Putin. I don't have an issue with that, right? But like if you invite him all the way to Alaska and then you don't get anything out of it, isn't that a little bit of an L for America again? Especially because like for the past week, mainstream media has been explaining for the first time in a long time the actual conditions, the actual battleground, the actual battle lines and what they look like and how much leverage Putin currently has and how much interest Putin currently has in the continuation of its conquest, its incursion into Ukraine. This is, of course, unique as opposed to the way that they've covered this issue for the past, 3 fucking years almost with very little criticism, very little accurate assessments of how things were unfolding with the hopes that, America was just like be able to make up for the lack of manpower, right? But now they're saying Vladimir Putin doesn't really have a big investment in stopping its incursion because the battle lines have been drawn and it truly favors the current way that the battle lines are drawn is favoring Russia. This doesn't mean that Russia has all of the interests of the world to continue. Obviously, they would rather not have to continue fighting because it's never that beneficial to continue killing people, right? Putin did the "you broke, I'm up" meme a little bit, but for that reason, I don't know where this goes. But I do recognize that there is a lot of appetite from Ukrainians that want the conflict to come to an end, that want the fighting to come to an end. They don't want to die. And they realize that the situation is untenable. So yeah, Russia has a massive numbers advantage, but their logistics is so bad. I know, but like at the end of the day, you still got to look at the battle lines. You still got to look at territorial acquisition, and they clearly, in spite of their logistical issues, they've been able to clearly push in and harden their positions inside of Eastern Ukraine, and are still actively taking over militarily further and further into Ukraine. So like it's manpower is the name of the game here. In the war of attrition, Russia is at this stage the party that is winning. You're just not historically That's just how they kind of handle all of their problems. You know what I mean?
Come back for more at some point in the future.
Yes, and I guess that the strategy of Putin and his delegation will be to either get a deal that's just too good.
Logistical issues, Lamau. Russia unfortunately produces more virtually everything than all the U.S. and EU combined. What are we talking about?
Buy some time.
No, when I say logistical issues, it's like equipment.
Yeah, that's right. And let's remember
The
that
equipment
Putin
being like
is
older
not
overall.
a
Like, I mean, they have drones, they have artillery, and they have allies that have a lot of drones, like Iran, and artillery, like North Korea. But overall, the Ukrainian, the equipment. Well, I guess Ukrainians also have supply chain issues as well, from what I understand. Like, there's a lot of corruption, and maybe even potentially like people just like stealing equipment to sell it on their own and shit. Like, this is another thing that I've heard that people consistently complain about. Like, Ukrainians have drones. They have really good, equipment overall. They're getting it from America, but like, there's a limit to how much they can get. There's a limit to that runway, especially post Israel's genocide. I think that limitation has been even more severe. But you know, even if the tech is better on the Ukrainian side, the Russians just have more manpower, and they can just keep throwing more and more people in the front lines, in the meat grinder. So yeah, that's where we're at.
So it might sound good. It might actually, in reality,
it was actually kind of interesting because like I have some disagreements with like Matt Duss on this, but a lot of the people who say like I'm fucking a bad person and pro Russia or whatever, how do they square that circle? Like, the conversation I had with Matt Duss, like, he said shit that wasn't that far off from my assessment of the situation. You know what I mean? Like, what is that? Why do people still run this fucking song and dance? Doors opening.
No ceasefire today, then we will.
Putler said
That's
doors
what they
open.
want to hear from Donald Trump, and they have not going in to this meeting. You know, from a president who has had much to say, riffing all the way here to Alaska, to the tarmac of this historic air base, and to this meeting imminent now with Vladimir Putin on the tarmac, up the red carpet, and into discussions.
Yes, James, thank you very much indeed. And as we can see, the scene is set for this meeting between Donald Trump, the handshake, and Vladimir Putin. His plane on the right-hand side, Air Force One on the left-hand side. 8:05 in the UK, 11:05 in the morning here in Anchorage, and there on the steps of the American aircraft you can see the words "Watch your step," and Donald Trump is going to have to do that in this meeting with Vladimir Putin. And many fear, many in Europe, certainly many in Ukraine, fear that he will fall into President Putin's trap, that President Putin will sell the idea of some sort of land deal to Donald Trump, knowing that it's a plan that President Zelensky could never accept, and then Donald Trump would then blame Zelensky for holding the whole thing up, because Donald Trump is keen to get a deal done pretty quickly. So it says watch your step. He'll have to do that, and it does seem though that Donald Trump Martha feels pretty upbeat, positive about things.
Yeah, he's spent a lot of time on the sort of 8-hour plane journey over talking to journalists. He spent 20 minutes answering questions. He was asked by a reporter whether he thought that today would be a breakthrough. He said, I hope so. I think it's interesting the way his language about this meeting has changed over the past week. It was described earlier on in the week as a listening exercise, something that was just the first step, and that there would be other more important meetings that followed. Then we woke up today to a Truth Social post in bold capital letters that this was a high stakes meeting, and now talk about potentially getting a deal over the line today. So
yeah, so there he is. The President of the United States of America emerges from Air Force One. Big moment for Trump. But this, of course, is a president who relishes big moments.
Who will fuck this up, Trump or Putin? Trump. What do you mean?
In many ways, his presidency is about creating big moments just like this. And I assume the plan is for him to get to the bottom.
I think this entire process is. I think this entire process is set together by Putin just to fuck around. He doesn't. I don't think.
To this Air Force base.
We're not even. First of all, you have to remember something. This person right here was a fucking KGB operative. And then also the head of state,
Ukraine, but
basically for my entire life. You know what I mean?
Have huge influence on what
like he has a lot more experience.
Ukraine and
as opposed to Donald Trump, who is genuinely an incompetent person.
That things are moving perhaps towards a ceasefire. There will equally be many in Ukraine who are very worried about what
he wasn't that high up in KGB. It don't matter.
About to happen. So each of them walk down their respective red carpets and will soon be together. And for Vladimir Putin,
this is a crazy experience, though. It is kind of wild because, like, I guess there is the whole.
Donald Trump
it's got to be like a little bit of a flex, I think, that Trump is just like walking by himself to show. I mean, this is American soil, so he's like
pariah, certainly in the West.
It's to say like I don't need security, but whereas like Vladimir Putin is like obviously walking with security around him. I assume that's like a bit of an environmental flex. Vladdy to Batty is on time. Yeah.
Victory for Putin, who is.
When was the last time like a Russian leader was on American soil? It does feel wild. I mean, these guys used to fucking cooperate all the time. There's like a shit ton of photos. Putin comes to Trump directly. That's another power play. He's doing the Erdogan. That was the Erdogan. That was the Erdogan technique. The claw grip. You just keep gripping.
Good-natured. They look pretty pleased to see each other.
Bro, they literally look like lovers. They look like lovers that haven't seen one another in a long time.
Freeze. Certainly as far as the West.
Is Putin wearing heels? Fuck yes, he is, bro. Are you kidding me? He is a manlet. Putin is much shorter than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like 6'3". Putin is a much shorter man, so he definitely is wearing heels.
And it'll be interesting to see if they are going to speak beforehand. James Matthews is with the American delegation. James, tell us the plan. What is the plan? Are they going to speak before they get down to talks?
It would surprise me if he spoke publicly here, Mark. I'm in an event center where there are two podiums set up.
This is a weird This is weird, bro. I'm not gonna lie, this is a weird sight
from both these individuals. I'm very happy. President Trump clapping the arrival of Vladimir Putin and big smiles. You know, this is the superpower moment, the smile and the shake of men who hold peace in their hands. A defining moment for both men.
You really have to be a demon to be president. Imagine palling around with someone who's killed hundreds of thousands of people, and you probably have yourself as well. I mean, yeah, these guys have bodies. Both Trump and Putin have fucking bodies. So at that stage, it's like normal. You know what I mean?
Their questions.
It's like an entry point. It's an entry point to being a world leader is that you have a fuck ton of bodies. Wait, did they get in the car together? They're in the Beast. They get in the Beast together. They're kissing. Oh, you know they're kissing, bro. You know. So they
Russians
do
said
have some
could go
private
on for
time.
6 or 7 hours, and I would think that is something that the Americans are not prepared for.
Yeah, the White House indicated earlier this week that they expected the talks to last for 3 hours, and I think that's more of the time frame that Donald Trump would be expecting. You know, he does not want to be locked in a room with Vladimir Putin for 6 hours. We can actually hear just above where we are now fighter jets.
There we are, yes.
We can see in the distance.
Fly past has just roared over our head. A number of, there it is in the sky is a display of American military might right over Vladimir Putin's head.
Yeah, flying in diamond formation. They left from that joint base Elmendorf-Richardson, and not an unfamiliar sight in this part of Alaska. There's lots of air training exercises around here, but yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few demonstrations of American strength for Vladimir Putin today. Interestingly, on the flip side, I've been told that the Russian journalists who were flying over on the jet chartered by the Kremlin, they were eating chicken Kiev on their way over here, perhaps a dig to Ukraine there.
And the two presidents, extraordinary shot, actually, two presidents together. Off they go for the talks, and they were chatting. I mean, Donald Trump seemed to be doing most of the chatting in the back of that car, but off they go to do a lot more talking. And it really is quite some moment, isn't it? I mean, although the narrative is that Putin asked for the meeting, it was Trump who, and there's the handshake again, it was Trump who allowed it to happen, and allowed it to happen without seeking anything in return, certainly not a ceasefire.
Mm-hmm. You know, Vladimir Putin on US soil, and many people viewed that as a concession of sorts by Vladimir Putin, that he would come to America. But I actually think it's almost the opposite in many ways, because this is exactly what Putin wants. As we've been saying, you know, he was an international pariah. He invaded a sovereign nation. He is wanted for alleged war crimes by the International Criminal Court. And here he is walking step in step with the most powerful man in the world, the US president. And what a picture that is. You know, you can really get a sense of the size of the two men there. Donald Trump is
I think they were there acknowledging the flypast that
right.
just happened. But
You
yeah,
think
sorry,
he was
go
like a
on.
little
Donald
worried?
Trump, sort of an imposing.
You think he was a little worried
He will be wanting
when the
to
flyover
take
happened?
control of this situation right from the off.
I mean, he's right next to Trump, so I don't know. But Trump is also not exactly a beloved person himself. Nah, probably not.
Both presidents.
Putin, hell no.
And James Matthews is, I was talking to James just before the handshake there, and I mean, Russian TV, James, have been shouting this very point about Trump sort of allowing Putin back. They've said Trump has brought the Russian leader out of the diplomatic deep freeze and given him a chance to cajole.
What do you mean? From mainstream media? From mainstream media? Because they are invested in whatever the State Department narrative is. In a world where if the American government unilaterally decided that actually Russia was our ally against China, they would also start reshaping that narrative in that direction. I promise you. If tomorrow they actually were able to, in this, like, I mean, I'm not saying this is likely, but if tomorrow America decided Russia was an incredibly valuable ally and they were going to do another Sino-Soviet split, you know, right? By warming up to Russia, normalizing relations with Russia, then the media would celebrate that. The media would talk about Putin as like a brilliant fucking leader who finally is paving the pathway to peace. That's it. That's the reason why. That is the reason why they talk about Benjamin Netanyahu as a complex leader that is trying to do his best or whatever the fuck. Normalizing invading countries. I mean, we're America. We already do that. One thing that Does said that was totally right is that Russia is practically a vassal state of China now. No, he didn't say that. He said it was a junior partner. And he chose those words carefully because I think it's not a vassal. I think Russia still has a lot more autonomy in this process than like actual vassal states do. Like I'll tell you like this. America has more control over Israel than China has over Russia. Russia is seen by those who are on the opposing pole to Western influence around the world as like the only country with the investment and the bandwidth to militarily oppose America and America's allies. I'm not issuing a value judgment here. I'm just simply relaying how other countries that are outside of the periphery of American interests that are in the global south or just not a part of the Western the Western world umbrella and the joint security cooperations that take place, they see Russia as like a violent force of retribution. This is not to say that this is a correct assessment. Having said that, China does have a lot of leverage over Russia, especially now. Okay? China control over Russia, what a joke statement. I didn't say China has complete control over Russia at all. I'm simply saying that China has a lot of influence over Russia now more than ever before because of China being the manufacturing hub of the planet. China has leverage over Russia. It's true. Russia has become China's junior partner in this. Why do I have to keep repeating myself over and over again if people will just not offer me the dignity of listening to what I'm saying? Oh my God.
Donald Trump was threatening sanctions on Russia, but he's invited him here as a guest, welcomed him here for a summit, despite Vladimir Putin offering no concessions whatsoever. And it doesn't look like from these pictures that's the start of this meeting that Donald Trump has any intention.
China doesn't give a fuck about Russia, actually? That's not true.
Getting tough and threatening more sanctions on Vladimir Putin.
That's not true. That's not true. First of all, China requires OPEC plus commitments for energy still. Russia is a part of that. That's number one. Number two, of course China gives a shit about Russia. Are you kidding me? I'm telling you what it is. China is not going to do military intervention anywhere, but Russia certainly has a lot of ambition to do so and has done so. They do it in Africa, they do it in Ukraine, they do it in the Middle East, and China benefits from that. If there are two different poles around the world, you know, similar to the Cold War, if you have like two different blocks, and then maybe the non-aligned countries, but not necessarily. You got NATO and Western forces, like the Western security apparatus that exists, and then you got everyone else. The everyone else in the equation would obviously be China being like the major superpower that is behind this block, okay? And Russia is the tip of the spear, the weapon that they wield against any kind of Western influence.
Convince Donald Trump the quickest path to peace is a deal on.
They share the same ideology, so there's a historical bond. No, they don't share the same ideology. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Joining me now.
I don't think that they share the same ideology. There's actually no ideological commitment whatsoever, and China never has required one either. There is no ideological bind, with the exception of like just being victims to Western intervention in the past historically. That's it. And also ongoing interventions in general.
What are your thoughts?
That is the only thing that has brought these other world powers together.
Of the democratic world, tapping the hand, almost chumming up with the war criminal aggressor.
And while China is a transitional socialist state, and there are still many areas in desperate need of improvement in Chinese governance and issues, when it comes to their foreign policy, they have an incredibly, I would even say, in a damaging way, a non-interventionist attitude. I mean, look no further than Israel. Okay? They will never intervene. They will never intervene. The only time where they engage in any kind of like foreign policy intervention is when they set up a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran over the ongoing conflict in Yemen. That was it, and that was pre-October 7. And the reason why they did that is because of their need for a steady flow of energy, and obviously Iran was threatening oil refineries and vice versa. And of course, Saudi Arabia was threatening Iran and its position in Yemen. So obviously, like, China didn't want that to continue, so they packed it up. That's it. China only cares about China and nothing else. China only cares about doing trade around the globe and nothing else. Millions will thrive with labubus. That has been their attitude.
Not as with an enemy, but as a partner. And I think that one of the issue which will be discussed, that will be the issue of revamping, refurbishing U.S.-Russian relations. And definitely Putin knows how to play on the false ideas, illusions of Donald Trump, who really wishes to implement some absolutely, in my view, illusionary economic projects or trying to revamp the rules of the world politics with Russia, or to drag Russia off China. Definitely, Putin will be playing all those cards. And as I said, it augurs quite well, quite bad for the possible outcome of this meeting for Ukraine.
There's lots of talk about territory. Donald Trump has talked about land swaps. Putin seems to want the rest of Donbass. I think it's about 18% or so that you still have. Putin wants
best
that.
Outcome here is
would Ukraine ever give that
ceasefire
up?
that is actually implemented.
Well, definitely there is a difficult reality on the front, but definitely we were quite adamant to not to allow further violation of our territorial integrity. What wants Putin is to add the Donbass to the land grabs he already made in Ukraine, occupying a new territory in addition to the territory and to Crimea occupied in 2014. The public opinion of Ukraine is definitely would like to end this war, but we cannot end the war at no matter at the basis of no matter what. Because it should be understood that if the world, the United States, Europe allows Putin to implement even the part of his plan for Ukraine, that would be the prelude to the new war, new aggression of Russia. And in this case, it would encompass not only Ukraine, but...
Okay, I can't.
Open the possibility
no
that he would address reporters from around the world on his own if he has to. He said he's going to meet with Putin here in Alaska. I think it's going to work out very well. And if it doesn't, I'm going to head back home real fast. The president has talked in the last 24 to 48 hours, and here we see the pictures right now.
I got to pee.
Inside the summit room there in Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, shit!
The sprawling joint base,
they're
Elmendorf
speaking!
Richardson. Let's listen to the reporters as they try their best here.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Everybody get out of the room! Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
Back to the images from before. We're going to re-rack to the beginning of those images because, again, that's the pool feed of what's playing out in the room. You can hear all the reporters trying to get questions in. You can hear some of the advance team is telling folks to get out of the room, meaning the moment is over. Now they work on the summit on their own, the 6 in that room. If we're able to queue up those images again, we'll surely share them with you. But what we've witnessed here today, obviously, is the landing of Air Force One in Anchorage, Alaska, the Russian president arriving a short time thereafter. President Trump coming down those stairs, waiting at the red carpet for Vladimir Putin, a very warm embrace of the Russian leader. We have seen these two leaders at a summit before. You'll remember in Helsinki during the first administration. It was during that summit the president was asked during a joint press conference afterward, much like what they're talking about today, about Russian meddling in the 2016 election. The president, in so many words, said, the President Putin said it wasn't Russia. I have no reason not to believe him, essentially putting his faith in Vladimir Putin on that stage in front of the world over his own intelligence community back in Washington. That moment is something that really people on all sides of politics remember well. The question now, all these years later, is will President Trump get what he wants going into this summit? He's given Vladimir Putin, at least initially, what Putin would like, which is a summit on American soil. The White House had said leading up to this that this was in large part Vladimir Putin's idea. They came up with the location to do this in Alaska at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, obviously in Anchorage. They will meet together. And Mary Bruce, we know this is going to be 3-on-3. We did not know exactly who would be in that room. Now we know Steve Witkoff and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be present as well.
And David, of course, they both bring their own unique strengths to this conversation.
It's over. You missed
Steve
it.
Witkoff, the president's
I didn't miss
special
shit, brother.
envoy,
It's going to be a fucking 6-hour
really,
meeting. The Donbass dweller writing here don't want to sound like a Zebop, but saying with Russia would be logistically simple for the people here. But staying with Russia would be logistically simple for the people here.
Has been, quite harsh and critical of Russia and Vladimir.
Bro, how Hasan, not an obese ham-leered, streaming 6 hours a day? I work out a lot.
The last several months, but it will be interesting.
They kicked the press out. Yeah, because they're lovers. They're about to have an orgy. You can't have so many cameras. Trump is camera shy.
Met when it was just them and their translators, a decision that got a lot of pushback and sparked a lot of concern about just getting to the truth of what was actually discussed in that meeting. Now you have a broader, bigger delegation. We were mentioning, of course, that Vladimir Putin has shown an interest in broadening out the conversation beyond just ending the war in Ukraine, possibly to discuss nuclear arms cooperation, economic cooperation as well, and trade. So possibly an effort by him to try and distract from what the president wants, which is that ceasefire. That, while he doesn't want to say it, is truly how we are defining, I think, the success of this meeting. Is he able to get progress, any kind of inklings towards that ceasefire? It certainly is what Ukrainian President Zelensky is hoping will come out of this meeting. But the president has also been very blunt that if that doesn't happen, well, he'll just pack up and go home and go back to being, the president of the United States and focusing on everything else he has to focus on. Trump, though, is acutely aware of the power of the images here today. He is also aware of the criticism and the pushback that he has faced, that simply meeting with Putin here today, allowing the world to see these images, is giving Putin a win, but it is a gamble that President Trump is willing to take if it means that he can possibly make some progress towards ending this war, David.
But let me ask you, Mary, you mentioned Steve Witkoff, obviously his trip, and I've been talking about this here, his trip to Russia that led to this summit, the Russian Federation saying, members of the Russian delegation saying Witkoff gave some signals that the U.S. would be open to a summit like this. Now we've seen it somewhat hastily arranged. It came together. It's playing out now in Anchorage, Alaska. You'd have to think that both sides here have been in communication leading up to this moment. President Trump has even said in the last day or two that he looks forward to an additional summit during which President Zelensky would also be a part. He said that today they will talk about the future of Ukraine. We'll talk about the ceasefire. And Air Force One, he was asked about by Rachel Scott, our own Rachel Scott, about land swaps, which is something President Trump brought up. President Trump saying they will be discussed, but I've got to let Ukraine make that decision. And I think they'll make a proper decision. But for President Trump to say publicly in these last couple of days that he looks forward to this next step, a summit that would include Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky of Ukraine, would at least make you think that President Trump thinks going into this, there is room for some ground to be made here.
Yeah, it certainly seems that he is trying to lay the groundwork today for another meeting. He has said that that's really the one that matters. And remember, the president all along was pushing for a trilateral meeting. He wanted
Who
to
do you
sit
think is
down
on
with both
top
of
now?
them. Vladimir
No,
Putin
Trump
nixed
is
that
a Trump
idea.
is a come hungry power bottom for sure. That's not even a question. That's not even a question. He's never topped. Trump has never topped a day in his life with Benjamin Netanyahu, with Vladimir Putin. He does not top. He is no loads refused, okay? Straight up.
Details, you know, what an exchange of territory would look like, what that land swap would entail, that's going to be up to Ukraine. So the president telegraphing that he is here to try and take that initial step to really try and get these two leaders to the same table. Ukraine has said, though, for that to happen,
bottom shaming. I have tremendous respect for bottoms. You're out of your mind. I have been a bottoms rights advocate in perpetuity. This is not new for me, okay? I've told the bottoms to unionize for years.
And what he would do if that's the case. Mary, stick with us here. We have a cleaner feed, if you will, of the images of the two leaders meeting, preparing to begin this summit. We can show you inside the room moments ago. As you can see, President Trump right there next to Vladimir Putin for a photo op.
Is that the first time anyone is cruising that beast or not? No, dude. Famously, Obama did it with the Cleveland. Obama got a Cleveland suck job. If you remember, from the toothless crackhead, according to the toothless crackhead. What was his name? Larry. Yeah, the Duluth Dyson. Larry sucked Obama off, and Obama did crack cocaine in the beast. The Duluth Dyson. Larry Sinclair, dude.
Putin, will you commit to a ceasefire? Will you stop killing of civilians? Make sure that there is a halt to any killing of civilians. Obviously, Vladimir Putin did not engage. The moment we can play you that audio, they'll let me know in my ear, and we'll play it for you. But Jonathan Karl, our chief Washington correspondent, watching these images play out. John, you saw the warm reception on the red carpet, as you point out. President Trump and his team at the White House have made it very clear that they believe up until now nothing else has worked. And so, as you alluded to earlier, this is sort of the home field advantage. That's the way President Trump sees this. The red carpet, American soil, riding in the beast, and the presidential motorcade. Vladimir Putin appeared very happy with that as well, smiling through those windows. The hard part, though, John, is what comes next.
Absolutely. And look, Donald Trump has never been reluctant to embrace even pariah dictators around the world. The embrace of Kim Jong-un, the embrace of Vladimir Putin,
like this kind of language. This kind of language, I think, is like somewhat unwarranted. And I feel a little bit more confident criticizing it now, especially after talking to Matt Duss yesterday, because like you gotta deal with these dudes. Okay. I'm always going to be on board with dealing with these dudes, especially adversaries, rather than taking a position, taking like a Brandonian stance where you're like, no talks whatsoever is never going to happen. It's how you talk to these guys and what you get out of those conversations that obviously matter. And the problem that I have with Donald Trump, at least with respect to this dealing, is that the conversations that he's having with Vladimir Putin, I don't think are going to be productive. We'll see. Only time will tell. I just don't think that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to lead to a serious ceasefire. Centrist take from Hasan, Mr. Moderate Piker. I'll give you an example of a pariah leader that Donald Trump actually, I think, handled even better than Democratic administrations have. Kim Jong-un. Donald Trump, ironically enough, due to the South Korean leadership at the time, and due to Donald Trump's like weird fascination, had more productive conversations between South Korea and North Korea than any other leadership prior or since. Like that literally was not, that was actually incredibly solid in terms of like American foreign policy. People got mad at me at the time, but I gave him credit for it. That was on Trump 1, where Donald Trump basically stayed out of the South Korea North Korea talks, and even de-escalated in terms of like military training, like and the posturing that they were engaging in around the Korean Peninsula. That was productive. Obviously, it amounted to nothing at the end of the day, but that was a good thing that he did. And he didn't take up the liberal attitude. He didn't take on the liberal attitude of like just vilifying the enemy. I thought those meetings were a good idea too, but they ultimately resulted in nothing. They got a photo op, and neither U.S. or DPRK really changed their behavior much. No, there was a period of productive talks back and forth, but I think South Korean leadership has obviously fallen apart since then. The guy who was managing those talks is gone, right? And then South Korea ended up electing the incel president, who ran on an even more aggressive stance against North Korea in the process. Who knows where it goes now? But you know, I'm all in favor. I'm all in favor of America allowing. He did actually do a temporary halt to ICBM launchers and nuclear tests as a result of those talks. Yeah, there was positive. There were positive things that came out of that meeting, like North Korean de-escalation and a period of. So legitimizing Kim for nothing was a better job than Dems, really? Yes. It was a really solid attempt at having diplomatic talks between South Korea and North Korea. That was true. That is true. It's if I give credit to Barack Obama for the JCPOA, which I do, right? And if I give credit to Barack Obama for normalizing, or at least starting the path of normalizing relations with Cuba, which I do, right? You have to give Donald Trump credit for the way he dealt with the North Korea, South Korea situation. Instead of like direct intervention, and instead of like leaning heavily into constant escalations, constant militarization, he did the exact opposite. And he allowed South Korea and North Korea to have this conversation on their own. Obviously, there was still, profound American influence in South Korean politics. That's never going to go away. But like, there is no like legitimizing a fucking foreign leader. Like that is silly lib talk. The dude is in charge of a country with nuclear arms. Like there is no, it's like saying, oh, you're platforming Donald Trump. It just doesn't mean anything. These are meaningless terms that you're using.
Into these negotiations, and he has said, I want the rest of Donetsk. I want to be able to say, this part is mine that I don't own. This part of Zaporizhia I want. I want this down at Kherson. But the real goal is to get the rest of the Donbass here. Why? Because it's a rich agricultural area. It's where the majority of industrial production comes from. And underneath the ground, there is critical minerals like titanium and lithium and coal. And so this is the consolation prize. There's no way that Ukraine can accede to this kind of releasing this much territory to Putin. So as the president has said, he's not going to negotiate today on who gets what. But this is what the expectation is that Putin is going to ask for. It will be a very difficult negotiation because neither Putin can show much leeway, and Zelensky cannot afford to give up this much of Ukrainian territory.
Lithuanium, which comes from Lithuania.
Eastern part of Ukraine. Steve, leave those circles right up there. Actually, if you
it's Lithuania mentioned.
In the east, right there. Anywhere where there are stripes along that eastern region of Ukraine, that's where Russia has made significant advances since this invasion. And Steve, all those circles that you've just put back on the map, as Steve points out, that's what they want in addition to the area where they have made strategic advances. Reuters and other agencies estimate up to 20% of Ukraine is now in Russia's hands. And Steve, this is going to be the central question of these discussions. Even if they get the ceasefire today, then you're going to get. Will you
grant critical support to J.D. Pondon and his goal of ruining the American empire? No, because once again. While I joke about this sort of stuff, empires don't fall quietly, unfortunately. So the more Donald Trump deprives America the worse things will get for not only Americans at the domestic level, but also everyone around the world. Look no further than America's grip of power waning on the global stage and what it is allowing, what is entertaining with Israel. Okay? Empires don't die quietly. They go away kicking and screaming, and it's incredibly bloody. And especially given the short time, the timeline of human existence, and you know, our lifespan being relatively short, we will experience all of that. We will see it. And one might think that we might not have any say in the process anyway. So, you know, we're just kind of along for the ride at this point.
On both sides of this war. Steve Gagnon, our thanks to you. Let's go back to these pictures from just moments ago as we wrap up this part of our live coverage today. Again, President Trump in Anchorage, Alaska, arriving before Vladimir Putin, then greeting the Russian leader when he arrived on the red carpet there, saluting obviously the troops, but also giving a very warm welcome to Vladimir Putin after they had that photo op there on the stage of Alaska 2025 there. We then watched.
I'm going to kill myself before that. You shouldn't. You want to know why? And I say this all the time. Here's why. Are you really going to not see the end of Israel? Like you're really gonna end your life before you see the end to Zionism as a fascist ideology? You can't do that. You gotta survive directly out of spite. Okay? Never kill yourself. You're really gonna fucking cut it short before even Donald Trump dies? You know what I mean? There's plenty of this is a target-rich environment, chock full of evil villains everywhere. You're really gonna let them outlive you? Fuck no. No shot. No shot.
Night, and then we'll be coming on the air live coverage here on ABC of the joint press conference with President Trump.
Oh yeah, there's a joint press conference coming up, baby.